I never thought that a quiet life within the walls of a Florentine home could turn into such a storm. The day the news of my husband Pietro's death reached me, the world seemed to stop. But beneath that silence lay the rumble of impending changes that would force me, Isabella, the daughter of a cloth merchant, to look at myself and the world in a completely new way. My Pietro, my kind, though taciturn husband, was always my anchor in this turbulent world. His cloth shop on Ponte Vecchio was not just a place of trade, but a symbol of our stability, our modest but comfortable existence. We lived not in luxury, but not in want either, which for 15th century Florence was no small blessing. I, Isabella, always knew my place. Mistress of the house, mother of 2 children, young Lucia and mischievous Marco. My days were scheduled by the hour. Morning, prayers, overseeing the maids, preparing dinner, embroidery, rare visits to neighbors. All of it was familiar, understandable, safe. And now, Pietro is gone. The plague, that merciless guest, took him so quickly that I didn't even have time to say goodbye. His body, wrapped in a shroud, was carried away at dawn, and with it, a part of me left. The first days after his death were shrouded in a fog of grief. I walked through the house like a ghost, seeing and hearing nothing around me. The children, fortunately, were with my sister in Fiesole, which spared them the sight of my despair. But when the fog began to clear, a chilling clarity replaced it. I was left alone. Alone with a shop that needed managing, with debts I only vaguely understood, and with 2 children whose future now depended solely on me. My father, may he rest in peace, always said that a woman should be a support for her husband, but he never taught how to be a support for herself when her husband is gone. Widows in our society had an unenviable fate. If they had no adult sons or brothers willing to take care of them, they often found themselves on the brink of poverty. My brother Lorenzo was a kind man, but too busy with his own affairs to seriously delve into my problems. He offered me to move in with him, but that would mean completely abandoning everything Pietro and I had built, handing the shop over. 2 strangers selling the house where my children were born. No, that was unthinkable. I felt something new awakening within me. Beneath the layer of grief, stubbornness, determination, a desire to fight. But how? I, who had never dealt with the shop's affairs, understood nothing about trade except that cloth should be of good quality. My knowledge was limited to household management and knowing a few recipes. The irony of fate. All my life I strived to be an ideal wife, and now I had to become what I had never been, an independent woman in a man's world, and that frightened me more than the plague itself. The first weeks after Pietro's funeral were filled not only with grief, but also with endless visits from sympathizers. Neighbors brought food, distant relatives expressed condolences, and some, particularly enterprising ones, already hinted at the need to sell the shop. Isabella, my dear, why do you need this burden? It's a man's business, nothing more. Sell it before it's too late, and live peacefully on the interest, urged Donna Giulia, the baker's wife, casting an undisguised glance at the chests where she apparently believed untold riches were stored. I merely smiled politely in response, but inside me, a dull irritation grew. Peacefully. How can one live peacefully when the future of your children hangs by a thread? I decided to start small. First, I asked old Antonio Pietro's clerk to show me the account books. Antonio, a loyal and taciturn man, initially regarded my request with distrust. A woman and numbers. It was unheard of, but I insisted. And so, sitting at the desk in Pietro's study for the first time in my life, I delved into the world of debits and credits, supplies and sales. Numbers danced before my eyes. The Latin in which many entries were written seemed like a foreign language to me. I felt like an ignorant peasant woman trying to understand a treatise by Leonardo da Vinci, but I did not give up. Every night when the children were asleep, I lit a candle and pored over the books, trying to understand the intricacies of trade operations. My head ached, my eyes watered, but I continued. I remembered Pietro's words about the importance of knowing one's business, and I realized that now it was my business. Antonio, seeing my persistence, gradually began to thaw. He started explaining the intricacies of the cloth trade to me, telling me about suppliers from Flanders and England, about the prices of wool and dyes. I learned that our main income came not from retail sales, but from wholesale supplies to wealthy Florentine families and even to the Medici court. This was unexpected and a little frightening. It was one thing to sell a piece of fabric to a neighbor, another to conduct business with influential people. My hands, accustomed to needle and kitchen utensils, now had to hold scales and sign contracts. I felt awkward, as if I had put on someone else's dress that was too big for me. But each new day brought new knowledge, and with it, a crumb of confidence. I didn't yet know how to untangle myself from this web, but I already understood that sitting idly by was not my way. The irony, I always considered myself modest and submissive, and now a merchant streak was awakening in me, which I apparently inherited from my father, even though he didn't believe a woman could be successful in business. My resolve was soon put to a severe test. One of our major suppliers, Signore Rinaldi, upon learning of Pietro's death, decided to take advantage of my situation. He sent a letter demanding immediate payment for the last shipment of Flemish cloth, threatening to sever all ties and, worse, to spread rumors of our insolvency. It was a blow below the belt. I knew Pietro had always paid his bills on time, and we shouldn't have had such debts. Antonio confirmed my fears. Rinaldi was trying to cheat us, taking advantage of my inexperience. My hands trembled as I read his insolent message. Tears welled up in my eyes, but I held them back. I couldn't show weakness, especially not now. I knew I needed advice, but who could I turn to? My brother Lorenzo, though willing to help, did not have enough influence in trade circles to stand up to Rinaldi. And then I remembered Donna Eleonora, the widow of a wealthy banker who lived nearby. She was known for her sharp mind and business acumen despite being a woman. Many men feared her, and women envied her. I had never been close to her, but her reputation commanded respect. Gathering my courage, I went to her. My legs felt like lead. Every step was difficult. What would I say? How would I ask for help? I, a humble widow, asking for advice from such an influential lady. Donna Eleonora received me in her lavish palazzo. Her gaze, penetrating and assessing, made me feel like a little girl. I explained my problem to her, trying to speak calmly and confidently, though my heart pounded like a trapped bird. She listened attentively without interrupting, only occasionally nodding her head. When I finished, she remained silent for a long time, and then, to my surprise, she smiled. Signore Rinaldi, she said, is a known swindler. He has tried similar schemes many times before, but he will not succeed with you, Isabella. She offered me her help, asking for nothing in return, simply because she, like me, was a woman in a world where men made the rules. This unexpected alliance gave me not only hope, but also the realization that I was not alone, that there were other women willing to support you if you dared to ask. The irony, I always thought women competed, but it turned out they could be the most reliable support. With Donna Eleonora's help, we devised a plan. She, using her connections, spread rumors that Signore Rinaldi was dishonest and had repeatedly tried to defraud honest merchants. At the same time, I, under her careful guidance, prepared all the documents proving our case. We gathered testimonies from other suppliers who had previously dealt with Rinaldi and suffered from his schemes. Antonio, my loyal clerk, proved to be an indispensable assistant in this matter. He knew everyone and everything in Florence, and his quiet but persistent work bore fruit. The day came when we were to meet Rinaldi, in the presence of representatives of the Guild of Cloth Merchants. My knees trembled as I entered the hall. The men sitting at the large oak table looked at me with curiosity and slight disdain. A woman in such a place, it was unusual. Rinaldi, smug and arrogant, was confident of his victory. He began his speech, accusing me of insolvency and threatening complete ruin. But when it was my turn to speak, I felt the fear recede. I spoke calmly, clearly, presenting facts and figures. I showed documents, testimonies, and even letters that Rinaldi had sent to other merchants, trying to pull off the same scheme. Rinaldi's face changed before my eyes from smugness to bewilderment, then to fury, and finally to complete defeat. The guild members, initially skeptical, listened intently, then began to whisper. In the end, a decision was made in our favor. Rinaldi was obliged not only to drop his claims, but also to pay us compensation for the damages and slander. It was not just a victory, it was a triumph. I, Isabella, a widow who was supposed to humbly accept her fate, was able to defend my business. The irony? I had always avoided conflicts, and now I found myself in the center of a trade battle and emerged victorious. This day changed not only my financial situation, but also my self-perception. I realized that I had a strength within me that I had never suspected, and this was just the beginning. The news of the victory over Rinaldi spread through Florence like wildfire. Suddenly, doors that had once been closed swung open for me. Merchants who had previously avoided my shop now sought meetings offering profitable deals. My name, Isabella, was no longer just the name of Pietro's widow. It became associated with determination and success. I began attending guild meetings where only men had previously been present. And, to the surprise of many, my advice began to be valued. Donna Eleonora became my mentor and friend, sharing her invaluable experience and connections. We discussed new contracts together, planned the expansion of the business, and I felt myself growing stronger every day. My shop prospered. We began importing not only cloth but also rare silks from the East, the finest lace from Venice. My children, Lucia and Marco, returned from Fiesole and watched the changes in our lives with surprise. Lucia, always serious and thoughtful, began helping me with paperwork, showing surprising meticulousness. Marco, though still mischievous, listened with interest to my stories of trade deals. Dreaming of one day becoming a merchant like his grandfather, I saw how proud they were of me, and that gave me the strength to move forward. Of course, not everything was smooth. Some men, especially those accustomed to seeing women only as submissive housewives, openly expressed their displeasure. A woman should stay at home, not trade. They hissed behind my back. I heard these words but tried to ignore them. Their envy and prejudice were only confirmation that I was on the right path. I learned to distinguish true allies from those who only pretended to be so. I realized that the world of trade is not only about numbers and deals, but also a subtle game of human relationships, where intuition and the ability to read people are sometimes more important than any calculations. The irony, I, who had spent my whole life afraid to step outside the familiar, was now setting new rules myself. I became an example for other women who, seeing my success, dared to dream bigger. And that was the most valuable acquisition. Years passed, my shop, now no longer just a shop, but a thriving trading house, Isabella & Sons, became one of the most respected in Florence. I, Isabella, no longer a young widow, but a venerable signora, known for my wisdom and business acumen. My hair had turned silver, but my gaze remained as sharp and perceptive as it was the day I first picked up Pietro's account books. Lucia grew into a beautiful and intelligent woman, becoming my right hand in business. Marco, though he retained his mischievous nature, became a talented merchant, expanding our trade connections to the most distant corners of Europe. I often remembered Pietro. His passing, though a tragedy, became the beginning of a new path for me. I realized that a woman's true strength lies not in her submissiveness or her ability to manage a household, but in her capacity to adapt, learn, and fight for her place in the sun. I did not become a man. I remained a woman, but a woman who learned to live by her own rules without violating the laws of society. I used my intuition, my empathy, my ability to multitask, qualities that many men considered weaknesses, but which proved to be my main weapon in the world of trade. One day, sitting on the terrace of my house, I watched the bustle of Florence. The sun was setting, painting the domes and towers in golden hues. I saw people hurrying through the streets, merchants closing their shops, children playing in the squares, and I suddenly realized that my path, Isabella's path, was not unique. I was just one of many women who, when faced with difficulties, found the strength not just to survive but to thrive. My story is not only about trade and wealth, but also about inner freedom, about the right to be oneself, about the fact that even within the strictest frameworks, one can find a way to flourish. The irony, I always feared change, but it brought me not only trials but also true happiness. I smiled. Tomorrow would be a new day and new opportunities, and I was ready for them. My legacy is not only a prosperous trading house, but also an example for my children, for other women, for everyone who dares to dream bigger than fate dictates. And that was the most important thing.